One. All right, everybody, it's your Uncle Ed. I'm back. So this time we're going to cover something completely different. You know me, I like to mix it up. Today we're going to talk about renovations. What's it mean? What's a light renovation? What's a heavy renovation? Why should you do it? Should you do it? And if you do, what are kind of the areas that we need to maybe focus on, et cetera, to add value to your property, right? And guess what? I have the best guy. I got Dustin, and he brought his hat game today on top of that. How can this get any better? Thanks again, Dustin, for coming on. I really appreciate it. So, Dustin is the president of Little Feet Renovation. I noticed that you started it in 2009, correct?
Yes, that's correct,
Yeah,
Ed.
you were coming out of T-Van?
Yeah, I came out of T-Van Restoration. I was a project manager for them. They were a high-end remodeling company. I think they're still in business. But in 2008, we all know that there was a big dip in the housing market, and a lot of companies were having trouble getting new sales in remodeling and renovation. And uh, I worked my way pretty much at the end of my run with them and decided to get my license as a means to embark on my own path. So uh, it was great. People thought I was insane, but there was only one way I thought that I could climb starting a new business in that downturn of the economy, which was up. And it
Yeah.
turned out that, with some, we landed a really nice contract at the beginning of 2009, and it was a good year-long project, and that kind of we just built upon that and built upon that, and pretty soon we were, doing uh, quite a volume of business now.
Right.
So
So that was kind of your cornerstone then of
it
the
was,
business.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. How cool is that?
It really kind of, changed my perspective. And I was getting, I'd been thinking a while for, starting my own company, because in, my industry, there's a certain limit to how far I can go physically before I have to be managing things, um, as a professional. Otherwise, your body can't keep up with the activity that you need to do. So for me to have longevity in my profession, I wanted to continue on. But I also found that the companies that I all worked for were great. They taught me a lot about being a technician and a builder. But my background is actually in sculpture, and I wanted to bring to my clients a higher level of
Mm.
creativity and a higher level of finish to my projects that I hadn't been offered opportunities for in other companies. And
Makes
so
sense.
it's been really excellent for me to be able to do like projects around San Francisco. Um, we do a lot of historical restoration. We do, Victorians, Edwardians, 1920s theaters. We've been very lucky along 24th Street. We've done a lot of work in the cultural corridor there. Uh, and doing really creative projects along the way, with fine artists and designers and architects. And it's been really rewarding. And I love what I do. I
I
love
can
what I do.
tell. I can tell. So you graduated from San Francisco State, right? That's where
I
sculpture
did.
came.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I got my sculpture degree.
Yeah. So how is that? How do you think that separates you from other quote unquote renovation companies? The fact that you have that sculpture background.
Well, what's great about that is that there are areas in building that can only be done if you know certain techniques, such
Hmm.
as a lot of the Victorians and Edwardians we see all around San Francisco have a lot of architectural molding on them that is actually plaster cast work. And that involves knowing how to do techniques such as mold making and then forming and then replicating those. And so a lot of contractors just don't know how to do that. And these buildings are also very unique to one another, and you can't buy these pieces off the shelf from another company typically. So they have to be, if you want to replicate things, they have to be crafted off of what's already there. So we can do that. The other thing that sets us apart is that we understand very deeply what how architects have been trained and how designers have been trained to see things like color theory and uh, balancing a room or how to create visual focal points within a space. So there's a lot of overlap between the fine art sculptural background and those other disciplines in building that then marry really well. So we have great collaborations.
I love how you've melded that creativity with something that's I wouldn't say isn't really known for being super creative, right? It's more kind of
Right.
boilerplate, right? Construction,
Yeah.
right? Building. But now you bring this whole artistic side to it, which, well, especially for cities like San Francisco, where you want something that's maybe different, right? Or renovate something that is very different,
Yep.
right? Like you said, Edwardians and
Yeah.
Victorians.
So, I mean, I think, there are obviously very big themes in construction and architecture and building these days. And, those are represented very well on home and garden television, right? But, when people want something very unique to themselves, then you have to rely upon a contractor that can see that vision a little
Yeah,
bit. So
that's where you come in, and that's where your
that's where,
background really shines.
that's where we come in,
100%.
we can do things that can really showcase a person's individual style.
So, it's been the long running belief, right, that if you want to improve or increase the value of your home, you go kitchens and bathrooms. And that's kind of always been the default. I mean, is that a myth or is there some truth to that? What's your take on that?
Well, I do think that they do achieve a higher level of return on your investment than other rooms. I also think, though, that there's a lot of missing opportunities that people forget about, right? Which is curb appeal. Um,
Hmm.
I think, uh, some folks will put off doing stuff in the exterior of a house and, how that house is presented from the street. And really, you want that house to look really beautiful in an MLS listing, right? Uh,
And drone shots.
right. I
Right.
mean, and not only that, but exterior work also protects the investment of the home long
That's
term, right?
true.
So the other area that people forget about a little bit is that indoor outdoor connection, right? So a lot of times we'll do places in backyards that they've got kind of a shabby backyard. They got a wonderful house, but they got a shabby backyard. And so connecting the interior space to a usable exterior that allows you to entertain more
Hmm.
and allows you to actually enjoy the home that you spend probably the majority of your income purchasing. I
Yeah.
mean, for the most part, most of us are just spending probably 50% of our income or more just affording their home.
Well, especially these days.
Yeah, and the fact that people don't want to be in them because they feel like they're not, comforting enough, to me is kind of sad.
Yeah.
I think if we're going to spend that much money in our lives and that's going to be our primary goal, to have this wonderful home, we want it to be a legacy for like them to pass on to their children or other relatives. Um,
100%. Yeah.
that's yeah.
Becomes legacy. Which, by the way, I love the slogan that you have. Where did the slogan come from?
Which one? I mean, I have a few
Oh, you
actually.
have a few. The one
Yeah,
that's in your signature, which
but,
is
I
Legacy Home
yeah,
Sculptors.
legacy home sculptors. Yeah, that kind of came about over kind of the course of like finding myself as a contractor, right? When I first started out, I thought I set out to be a sustainable builder. But I found out very quickly that there were market demands that really prevented people from being able to take advantage of that opportunity because sustainable products sometimes were out of people's budget range. I mean,
Mm,
and while people really wanted to do that, they they were forced to make other,
yeah,
choices
just
just
not
based on
financially feasible, kind of.
financially, it was
Yeah.
just unapproachable. And so we're still able to do that in certain places. I ended up getting some scientific certifications to try to like retrofit people's houses so that they're more energy efficient. And that turned out to be a better portion of that sustainable part of my business. But eventually, as I matured as a businessman, I realized that what really sets us apart as a company is my artistic background.
Yeah.
And that what I really enjoy and what I'm really passionate about is the finish. How do we make someone's home so beautiful that they really want to stay there, that they're really excited to stay there and show all their friends, and then want to keep that home as their forever home, right? Instead
Right.
of an investment property that they catapult to the next one and the next one and the next one, because that's kind of an exhausting way to live.
That's
So,
true. What do you think about dead space? I walked into a house and I remember, so there was stairs. So there was the living room, and next to the living room were the stairs that go up. And then right below the stairs was kind of like dead area, but they had converted it into like a wine cellar.
yeah.
I I just never thought of that. Like, wow. What are your thoughts on just dead space within the envelope of a home? Now, some of it has to be that way because I don't know, but structurally, maybe they have to. But is that an area that you focus on, or is that an
I
area that is
do.
often overlooked?
It is, and especially when we're building like additional dwelling units, like the small spaces. Like the smaller the space, the more critical that becomes. You do
Yeah,
want no dead space, right? I see kitchens and bathrooms all the time. The old way that they used to set the upper cabinets was like about a foot lower than the ceiling, right? And
right.
that's like a foot of dead space that collects dust. That makes me crazy. So when we do kitchens, we always bring those cabinets up full height and give people more storage. Storage is a missing component, I think, and I'm not sure historically why that is. I think that there maybe were more options for furniture pieces in the past, for
Mm,
armoires and things like that, that now people
I
don't
can see that.
really use. They would rather have closets. And so
All right.
back in the day, some of these homes weren't designed to have the dead space was left alone. But now we do look for opportunities all the time and creative opportunities. They can be anything from, I was recently in a home the other day that had one of those old ironing boards that popped out in the kitchen, right? So we take those ironing boards out and we like to put in custom spice racks, or we'll put
Right.
in like those hallways that have the old telephone spot in them, we'll take those out and we put cell phone charging stations in there
Mm,
so that we
that's
repurpose
cool.
some of these spaces, even those little tiny spaces. But areas under the stairs can be an additional little powder room. It can be a little wine cellar. It can be
Totally.
extra storage. There's lots of ways to use space in a home.
Yeah. So what's your process when you sit down with a client?
Well, typically what we do is we'll have it depends on how that client comes to us. We don't always have clients that come to us and say, I'm not really certain what I want to do with my home, but they'll have a basic idea. So we'll have an initial consultation with them about what they want to do and what their thoughts are and their process. And we'll set together, a budget. We'll do an estimate for them on kind of the parameters of what we know. And then but it's more of a flexible estimate. It's an estimate that gives them a good idea of what they need to know financially so that they can make a decision of whether or not they can move forward at all. And then after that, we would go into what I call the kind of the contract phase, and or sometimes a pre-construction phase. We have an in-house designer who does interior design work for us, and she'll sit with a client and help them design, let's say, a bathroom or a kitchen or an outdoor space with them, and selecting all of the finishes and collect and present mood boards so that you understand how all of the pieces fit together with one another. And then after that, we'd go into what we call the construction phase. And then at that point, we're in contract. We've got a defined budget and we've got a schedule for production.
Since you're listening to them and also doing a walkthrough of the property, do you and you're listening and I'm sure you're gathering ideas of their lifestyle. Do you make also some kind of hey things to think about recommendations, like for example, dead space
Oh yeah.
that they might want to consider that wasn't on their list originally?
Oh yeah, we see that all the time.
Yeah.
We're a design build firm, so we're always making those suggestions over time. We recently did a bathroom project where the scope of work was just to remodel the bathroom, but when we took everything apart, we realized there was about 2 feet worth of space that could be used from the hallway. So we
Mm.
created them a little tiny broom closet, which
Oh, cool.
brooms and vacuums seem to be the thing that nobody knows where to store. And so
That
we
and dead bodies.
we're in the process actually today of creating the hidden door. It's a push door where you just push the wall, it pops out, and that's where all your stuff lives. You
Very
put
cool.
it back in. So yeah, we find those opportunities all the time.
I'm
Now,
sure.
you know, obviously, we also have to be sensitive to people's budgets. I mean,
Of
we could
course.
come up
Of
with
course.
ideas all day long,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. Of course. You go in there and redo the whole thing. No, I get it. Yeah, I
we
get
can't
it.
help ourselves. We love to make those solutions.
Especially creative types. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure. I mean, you're biting your nails, going, "Oh my gosh, I can do so much here," right? So, last technical question:
sure.
how did Little Feet the name come about?
Well, it hits multiple notes within my family. Uh,
Okay.
like I mentioned before, I had a real desire when I first started the company to be a sustainable builder because I've been a carpenter my whole life, and I really wanted to preserve the woods that I was using during my life. I would hate to see the forests go away, right?
Yeah.
So that was one little piece. So it was, but that's like I think that's the most, obvious piece. The less obvious portions is that my wife and my daughters are a part, their heritage is Apache, as well as Salvadorian and Roma. So the Little Feet was kind of a little callback to my family, my daughters, to say, you know,
Mm.
uh, I appreciate your heritage. And so
How cool
that's
is
a
that?
personal piece for me. The logo of our company is actually the footprint of my eldest daughter. And then finally, the the legacy portion of the tagline that we talked about earlier, that really ties into the name of our company. Little Feet Renovation is basically those little footprints. It represents to us the homes we're trying to build that you want to keep within your family and pass on to next generations and to build wealth within your family.
I love that. I'm so glad I asked that question, Dustin.
Thank you.
It
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
changed really the cadence of this interview. Thank you so much. Well,
yeah.
I see that your email address is up there, but is there a cell phone also that people can use to get
There
a hold of you?
is. I can probably drop that on here right now. Let me try to do that. But it is 650-534-6163.
Excellent.
And that's my direct line. So
All
you can
right, great. And you see the email address there, folks. If you're
it's
even
spelled
thinking about
IL.
renovating, or you just maybe thinking in the future you want to do that, great consultation, right, with Dustin will go a long way. So that way you can have a roadmap, if you will, to how to turn your property into a legacy property, right? Something that you're gonna keep and pass on for many, many generations. It's definitely something that we're seeing more and more people do as things get more expensive, right? Well, Dustin, as always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your insight and thank you for your personal story too on how you named your company and then also your slogan. We
A
shall
great
see
one.
you next time. We're going to do another interview for sure, talk
Oh,
about different aspects of renovation and maybe some trends that are going on. But for now, folks, have a great weekend and make sure to give him a call. Take
thanks.
care. Thank you.